Okay, guys, I'm seriously upset. Honestly, I'm really frustrated tonight. And honestly, like, this is one of those matches, and it's been a really long time this has happened, but this is one of those matches where we've, ended the game, and I feel like we should have lost. I honestly do feel like we don't deserve even a draw in this match. And that's just me being entirely honest. I'm not going to lie to you, because the performance was abysmal. I'm not going to I've not seen Barcelona perform this poorly in a long time. It's like they played like strangers on the pitch. And it's been a long time I've seen this. It was so bad that Joan Garcia was our man of the match. That's the man of the match. I don't care what anyone says. That's the man of the match. And that says a lot. And it was by a stretch. And even the next best player on the pitch for us was Christensen. So that tells you everything you need to know before we start talking about Pedri and Frankie de Jong. Our attack was abysmal, guys. They played like strangers. They played like they've never played before. And I'm now starting to get worried, because Barcelona, in terms of our management and our boardroom issues, we need to get I don't want to curse. We need to sort ourselves out. We need to fix this financial situation. We need to get our head back in the game, because these boardroom issues, these administrative problems are beginning to seep into the pitch. And this is something that we were able to avoid last season. We're able to play all of last season without having issues seep into the team, into the pitch. We kept our problems off the pitch. But I think this season, cracks are starting to show. Those issues are starting to show. First, it was Gavi and Fermin having issues. It's not being able to register players. It's not being able to keep the players that we have. Losing Inigo Martinez. We're just losing players. We're not making good signings. We're not even selling players well. We're selling players for as low as 350,000. That's how bad it is right now. And teams are starting to take advantage. Even teams that would normally, high-paying teams are coming to us and offering us change just to get our players, because they know that we've got issues. And you can tell, because Flick was so frustrated at his last press conference that he actually had to voice it. Imagine a coach saying that he'd actually be happy when the transfer window closes. That's not something you'd hear with Barcelona. Most times we're the ones trying to go into other clubs and take away their best players. But now it's the other way around. It's teams coming into Barcelona and just getting in players' heads, offering them deals, because these players are confused. They don't know what they're going to get from Barcelona. And if you look at the way that we've treated some of our players in recent times, it doesn't even give the players that we have any sort of security. We didn't have all this money to do anything, and we were going after Nico Williams. How would we have registered him? Guys, it's not just about this match today. I think this is a combination of things that have been happening over time, and it's now starting to boil over. And that's what we're seeing today. Because I think even the goal that we scored was dubious. It wasn't like a proper penalty, but we'll get to all of that in a bit. I just wanted to sort of pour out my frustration, because I'm not happy at all. Okay, but if we do go into the match itself, I just want to start off with the lineup. So Flick has decided to rotate again. So he made 4 changes from the team that played against Levante last week. And I don't really see that this is a good thing. That's what I want to start talking about first. I don't really see that this is a good thing. I think that it's almost like we're just gambling, like we're just trying different things at the moment. And we need some sort of stability to start off the season. I think we need to start the season with our strongest team the way we ended last season. And then over time, you start introducing new players. And I do understand from Flick's perspective, there's been, a lot of issues that we've had with registrations and all of those things. But I do still feel like the players that we had available were sufficient for Flick to still keep things the same. So if we look at today, for example, there's 4 defenders that he played today haven't started a game since Flick came into Barcelona. I don't think these 4 players, this is the first time all 4 of them are starting a match together. And we decided to throw all of them in today. So we had Kounde, Eric Garcia, Christensen and Balde. That combination, I don't know. It's something that it could work. I see it potentially working. But obviously, Christensen is a left-sided centre-back. I would have loved to see him with Kubasi today. I don't think changing everything entirely was in our best interest. I think that's the initial thing, and especially with a team like Rayo that press high up. They like to put on that high press. And so you need defenders that are comfortable on the ball, and you also need defenders that have played together for at least a good amount of time to have some sort of understanding. But we didn't have that today. And to be honest, as bad as our defense was, I was thinking that I was going to come in here today and talk more about our defense. But to be honest, our attack was probably worse. But we'll get to that in a bit. In midfield, we had De Jong, Pedri and Dani Olmo. Now, Dani Olmo was nowhere to be found today. I'm not going to lie to you. And even the chances that fell to him, he took them terribly. I don't know what's going on with Dani Olmo. I think he really, really needs to get back to the form that we saw him, last season, much of last season. Now, in attack, we had Lamine, Ferran and Raphinha. That's a very familiar front three. So the reason why I don't really understand why they didn't really connect well today, I don't think that they connected well. I don't think they were moving the ball quickly enough for the sort of intensity that Rayo Vallecano were bringing to the match. Now, this might have something to do with Dani Olmo, because I think like most times when that front three have performed at their best was when we had that central link, because Pedri is a bit more withdrawn. He plays a bit more withdrawn to link up with Frankie de Jong. So we need a number 10, an attacking midfielder in there that connects with Pedri, but also connects with the attack. And I don't think we had that today. Now, if you listen to my prediction, and I did mention that, I would have preferred if Raphinha started in the number 10 position, because I think he did look promising. He did look a lot more promising than Dani Olmo. And there's reasons for me saying this. Raphinha is a hard worker. For me, he works harder than Dani Olmo. And also, I think he's more physical. Dani Olmo is a bit of a fringe player, I'm not going to lie to you. So with a high intensity team like Rayo, I don't really think starting Dani Olmo was in our best interest. But that's what Flick decided to go with. I don't think he trusted Rashford to be on the left, because I would have much preferred Raphinha to be in the middle and then Rashford would be on the left, because that will put pressure on their right back. That will put pressure on their right wing and then relieve Balde a bit, because Balde can then run forward. But if you watch, they were playing a lot of balls in behind Balde. That caused us a lot of trouble. And that was because I didn't think there was enough problems in that left wing to really, really trouble them. And I think that in the midfield as well, we needed that pressure, because Raphinha is very good at pressing forward, pressing the defenders and then just being on them. He's even better at doing that than Ferran Torres, who was our actual striker on the night. So I really felt like we missed out on that. But if we move on to the match itself, in the 3rd minute, that's when we got our first chance. And that first chance came from Lamine Yamal. So both teams actually started really well. It was really like almost like end-to-end stuff. Both teams were really pressing each other's defense and trying to force people into errors, which is sort of like how Rayo always play when they play against us. But the first chance fell to Lamine Yamal in the 3rd minute. So it was a good link-up play between himself and Dani Olmo, and he just took a snapshot that went straight to the goalkeeper. So that was like signs of, sort of intent and things to come. In the 6th minute again, that was the first decisive opportunity that we had in the match. Unfortunately, Raphinha wasn't decisive enough. So back to the high pressing that I said Raphinha was very good at. He did that high press. He was able to cut out a pass, and then he got an opportunity to cut the ball back. And I'm very sure that he saw Ferran Torres, because Ferran Torres just flashed across him. And normal Barcelona that we know, they sort of give blind passes even, and they already know where each other are. So I knew that Raphinha saw Ferran Torres, but I just thought he was a bit selfish in that particular play, which can be forgiven because that's like the first 2 chances in the game. So obviously you're thinking, I might just take this opportunity, we're going to get other chances, which he did make up for later on. But in this particular sequence of play, he didn't pass the ball back. He actually took a shot on his weaker foot, which again, very poor decision, and that just flashed wide. A couple of sloppy passes were just going on, and we were starting to lose the ball in the final third. And in my mind, I was just thinking, okay, maybe it's just the pitch, because obviously the pitch was abysmal. I don't know if anyone saw it, which is quite unfortunate because La Liga are so interested in Camp Nou and making sure that they're sending representatives to the Camp Nou to make sure that the condition is all good. And even the Johan Cruyff Stadium that we're going to use for the Valencia match, they also sent representatives to make sure that that pitch was okay. So it's quite funny that they didn't check this pitch today. And this is not the first time this happened, but I'll get to that in a bit. So we were making those sloppy passes, and I was like, I don't really know if it's down to the players or if it's down to the pitch. However, Joan Garcia was called into action in the 9th minute. So it was a ball over the top that he rushed quickly to go and clear. Again, showing that sweeper keeper ability that he's got. And I was like, okay, this guy is really up for today's match. You know, obviously he's a very athletic goalkeeper. So I really was impressed. But it wasn't long after he was called again into action. It was a chance that came from the left. Kounde miscalculates a ball over the top. And then Rayo then make a low cross into the box. And Joan Garcia just saves it point blank range. And he just sort of makes himself bigger for him to be able to save that ball. And I'm like, that just reminded me of Ter Stegen. And I was like, okay, we've got a good goalkeeper in our hands. We've got a great goalkeeper actually in our hands. And so Rayo were very energetic in the first 15 minutes. I give them that. They were really breaking up our play, forcing us into mistakes. Kounde was making a couple mistakes in the back. Eric Garcia was also making a couple mistakes as well in terms of passing. Frankie de Jong took a while to get back in the flow of things. I thought the only person that I felt was a bit, consistent in that midfield was really Pedri, who's always consistent. That's Mr. Consistent. Now, I just want to mention something. In the 20th minute, Lamine Yamal tried to do some dribbling at the edge of the box and we lose the ball, which then led to a counter-attack. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because I think like Barcelona need to figure out a way around Lamine Yamal's dribbling. Now, I don't have anything against being a dribbler. I don't have anything against a player like Lamine Yamal. Obviously, when you've got a great player like that in your team, you need to sort of create room for him because of what he's able to offer you offensively. But also, you need to create a plan around that as well. When Messi used to play for Barcelona, if you remember, sometimes he could go on those dazzling runs. And most times, 9 times out of 10, it will work out. Or 8 times out of 10, it will work out. But the times where it doesn't, it's usually very dangerous. Because when those sorts of players take on the ball, the whole team is thinking attack. And so when there's a break in play or possession is turned over, it's very difficult to then, sort of break the counter-attack. And that's what teams are starting to do. We've got Lamar loses the ball. And then the other team goes on a counter and it's hard for us to recover. That happened against Inter. If you remember, when we were 3-2 up, Lamine Yamal took a shot that hit the bar and went for a throw-in, and then Inter then used that sequence of play to equalise. Now, I'm not blaming him for it. I'm just saying that we need to be a bit more alert when Lamine Yamal's on the ball because of he takes risks, he could lose the ball, and that could be a huge problem for us. Now, in the 25th minute, there was a foul on Pedri that I did think should have been a yellow card. The referee didn't give a yellow card, but I thought it was meant to be because I think the way that Pedri had already beaten the defender on a turn, it was quite open for him to be able to then give what could have been a killer pass. So I think that was a goal scoring opportunity in a sense, but obviously they got away with one. The yellow card wasn't given, but we got a free kick. And then from that free kick, Raphinha then lays the ball for Dani Olmo and another tame shot again goes straight to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper saves it. Now, in the 28th minute, it was an amazing pass from Eric Garcia to Raphinha on a run. Amazing pass. And Raphinha this time around, I mentioned earlier when he took that shot. This time around, he made the right decision. Then there was a cut back for Ferran Torres. And Ferran Torres just misses a sitter. I don't know if it's just the anticipation or it was the lack of the striker's instinct, but this is something where I say we always miss Lewandowski. And this is something that Ferran Torres hasn't been able to improve in his game. I think those tap-ins and those sitters, I think he needs to really, Lewandowski knows where the ball is going to go. And that's really important. I feel like even Raphinha is better at this than Ferran Torres, because how many times do we see Raphinha get on the end of a Lamine Yamal cross? We don't really get that from Ferran Torres. I think Ferran Torres always likes when it's very obvious. I want that ball goes in the middle, that ball goes in the center, and then there's this striker that just cuts across and just taps it in. We need that. We need a poacher. We need Ferran Torres to learn how to be a better poacher, because I think we also missed that from Ferran against Inter last season. And I keep going back to that match, but there was a lot to learn from there. And I think we should have learned from those. So I think that's an aspect of Ferran Torres' game that he needs to improve, because if he did, that should have been our first goal. So not long after, Christensen then makes an amazing recovery. So this is where Christensen started to rise on the ladder for me as, our best players in today's match. I think it was Joan Garcia, Christensen and Pedri. Those were our 3 best players today. Now, Christensen makes a recovery, and that was an amazing recovery on EC, when, the ball was like 2 yards away from him and he was able to run back and just clear that ball for a corner kick. I thought that was amazing. Now, at this time, Rayo had already gotten 5 corners and we had none. So you can obviously see that in terms of the attack, who was putting who under more pressure. Because I think if we were putting them under pressure, we should have at least gotten at least 1 corner kick. But when doing that, we were too predictable and they were too comfortable in defence. But not long after this, literally 5 minutes after this, on the 37th minute, Lamine Yamal does some nice bit of work on the edge of the box that then leads to a penalty. But in all honesty, guys, and I know I'm a Barcelona fan, but that was not a penalty. It was nothing close to a penalty. And I was a bit shocked when the referee first pointed to the spot. I'm like, what did I miss? And then I saw the replay, the first one, the second one, third one from different angles, and it was still the same thing. Lamine Yamal actually was the one going in for a foul, if anything. And I just feel like that was a bit of a harsh decision against Chavarria. And I think, that wasn't a penalty at all. But, it gets even funnier, guys, because we then realised we're waiting for VAR to sort of intervene because I thought it was going to get overturned. We then realised that there's no VAR. VAR wasn't working. Not that there's no VAR, but VAR wasn't working. And to be honest, as funny as this is, it's actually a shame on La Liga. I don't even know who to blame. Obviously, La Liga have a portion of the blame because of the governance and the management around what's expected of teams when they're hosting other teams. I also sort of feel like it serves Rayo Vallecano right as well, because how many times have teams tried to, teams when they're facing Barcelona, tried to make the pitch or tried to make the environment as unconducive as possible just to make it difficult for us to play our game. It's either they're flooding the pitch or the pitch is terribly patchy, and now we're coming to even VAR not being present. And I was thinking, in my mind, I don't know who's responsible for this. I think in this particular situation, it should have been down to Rayo to make sure that all the technical aspects of the stadium were in check, because I think that might have been a technical issue. Because the VAR were actually present. It's just the fact that from a technical perspective, it wasn't working at the time. And because of that, we sort of got away with one. But in a sense, I think it does serve Rayo Vallecano right, because I think teams, it's their responsibility to make sure that the stadium and all the facilities required for the match are in tip-top condition, especially when you're hosting a team like Barcelona, because the whole world is going to be watching. But then that brings me to La Liga. La Liga have this, it's sort of like they've gone on a witch hunt against Barcelona in recent times. But because if you look at the way that they've been following up with everything having to do with Barcelona, they monitor how we sign players, they monitor how we register players, they monitor even the pitch that we use. But you can't check the teams that we play against to ensure that their stadiums are in the best condition to host Barcelona. And mind you, Barcelona is a team that represents Spain. So any match that we're involved in, the whole world's going to be watching. And look at the sort of embarrassment that we've been exposed to tonight. I think this is a big shame on La Liga in terms of the refereeing first to give that as a penalty, but also in terms of the pitch, the VAR, everything was just upside down. And I think we need to get our acts together. La Liga needs to get our acts together and focus on the important things and stop focusing on who Barcelona is signing and who we're not signing. But moving on, Lamine Yamal puts the ball on the spot and he sends the goalkeeper the wrong way and dispatches the penalty really well. And I felt that was a well-taken penalty. Usual celebration, a crown celebration, and we were 1 goal up. Even though we didn't deserve to be 1 goal up. But yeah, we were 1 goal up. Now that really got Rayo agitated, because the following 5-10 minutes of the match, Rayo were really putting us under a lot of pressure. They were really trying different things. You could tell that they believed that they could stand up to Barcelona, which is a bit of a shame from our perspective, because I think we didn't take command of the game well enough to silence the crowd. Now, in the 48th minute, I want to touch on something, because I mentioned how Dani Olmo wasn't really in this game, because I've not really mentioned him. No chances, nothing really that he really contributed to the team in the first 45 minutes. But in the 48th minute, a chance came to Dani Olmo, and it was a glaring chance to put us 2-0 up. And if we'd gone 2-0 up from that passage of play, we could have won this match. Definitely won this match, but we couldn't put the game to bed. It was an opportunity that fell to Dani Olmo. For some reason, he just kicked the ball over the bar. And you could tell Flick was furious. He was fuming at the touchline because, you know, you're playing for Barcelona. You should be putting that chance away, or at least forcing the goalkeeper to make a save. Unfortunately, Dani Olmo did neither, and we had to end the first half just 1-0 up. And that's when I knew that there was a problem, because then there was still a lot of work to do. However, the second half started the same way that the first one ended. We didn't make any changes, nothing. And in 46 minutes, it wasn't even 1 minute in, Joan Garcia had to be called into another point-blank save. And I was thinking, Rayo are in this game. They're really, really in this game. And they were knocking on the door. Now, another chance fell to Dani Olmo and he slammed it across the bar again. For some reason, he couldn't sort his feet out. And I'm thinking, Dani Olmo needs to be taken off. Because you can just tell, you know, we need players that have got that heart, that have got that courage like Raphinha, that want to take the game to the opposition. You don't want to crumble because you've missed a chance. Because it just felt like Dani Olmo wasn't really up for this game mentally, and he just kept missing those chances. And I just felt, yeah, he needs to be taken off. In the 49th minute, Raphinha then got on the end of a loose ball. I think that came from a corner kick. And then he, you know, played a crossfield ball into the box that Eric Garcia tries to connect with, but he doesn't connect with it properly. So there was no real power on the end shot. So that just goes to the goalkeeper and the goalkeeper saves it. Now, in the 52nd minute, another ball above Balde's head. They kept doing this. It was almost like they planned to do this, and it was working every time. It was the ball just over Balde on that left. And then there was a crossfield ball that Christensen just stretches. And that was a last-ditch challenge. That last-ditch tackle that just takes the ball away from the striker. And then Joan Garcia is able to pick it up. And I'm like, Christensen's actually a mad defender. And it's quite funny because I don't really understand why Flick, when it comes to Flick's first, second, third, I don't even think Christensen's his fourth choice defender, which baffles me. Now, I don't know if it's because of fitness issues. Hopefully he gets a bit more playing time. But every time he's come on the pitch, he's looked really solid. I don't get it. I even felt more assured with Christensen in the back today than I felt with Araujo. I think like the best defensive performance from any defender we've had in the first 3 matches of this season has come from Christensen today. I think Christensen's performance was better than whatever I've seen this season. And that's including Kubasi, honestly. But obviously, I don't know if it was, you know, players being tired or just being complacent, but I just felt like a lot of passes were just going, you know, we're just losing it, we're just giving the ball away. That's what I just felt in the first 10 minutes of the second half. And guys, I just want to take this time to say kudos to Frankie de Jong and Pedri tonight because, you know, it's not all bad. I want to also talk about the good things as well. I think Frankie de Jong has really earned his spot in that midfield. I think he's now come to a point where he and Pedri have an undisputed place in that midfield if they're 100% fit. Anytime they're fit, they should be playing, except they want to give them a rest on a match that's not so important. But I think Frankie de Jong today was amazing. He was winning those balls. He was carrying that ball, holding on to the ball, holding on to possession, you know, just turning, distributing the ball. He was connecting well with Pedri and spreading those balls to Yamal. I think Frankie was really, really good today. And I really want to give both of them kudos. They did really well today. Okay, moving on to the 62nd minute. Another forced error. And this time it was Eric Garcia in defense. And then he gives a pass that was intended for Kounde, but that was intercepted. And that leads to a goal for Rayo Vallecano. Fortunately for us, they're flagged offside. So again, another get out of jail card for Barcelona. And I'm thinking, this match is looking funny. It's looking tricky. Another chance came in again in the 65th minute. Alvaro Garcia shoots the ball, but Kounde deflects it wide. And off the corner, Rayo Vallecano score. I was just literally saying it. And then Rayo Vallecano score off the corner. Now, I don't really know who to blame. So obviously it's going to go to Kounde at the end of the day because that came from the right wing. That's his wing. And I think like he should have been aware of what's happening behind him. I think one of the Rayo players just dragged him forward and he just forgot what was behind him. And then that ball just lands. We shouldn't be conceding. Honestly, before this match, I was already thinking to myself, if you look at last season, sometimes, guys, Barcelona concede easy goals. Because I was watching the match between Arsenal and Liverpool today, and I'm like, it really took something special to beat Arsenal today. that free kick from Superslap, I think it was an amazing free kick. And I think sometimes that should be what it takes to beat Barcelona. It shouldn't be cheap goals. Honestly, we need to fix that. How can you have this sort of world-class players that keep conceding cheap goals? Cheap goals. If you think about the match against Inter, the first goal by Thuram, it was Inigo Martinez slipped, I get it. But in the second minute, in your home, in the Champions League semi-final, how can you be conceding in the second minute? And then Dumfries also scored with a header. Cheap goal again. We need to get our act together. I feel like Flick needs to have a word with his defenders. They need to be more focused. They need to be more disciplined. They need to be more intense. I think like the defending is so complacent, especially from Kounde. He's sort of like, it's just sort of like he has this moments of loss of concentration. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like he connects well with Lamine Yamal, but I think he loses concentration a lot. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but definitely that's something I've noticed about his game over time. And I do think like he needs to be more focused. He needs to be more alert. And that cost us today, because that's how Perez was left unmarked, completely unmarked. Because if there was a player like marking him, at least that could have put him under pressure. But there was no sort of pressure at all. So it was able to guide that ball into the post. And from there, like, it was just like Barcelona were never going to win this match, because Rayo Vallecano already felt like they were hard done by with that penalty. So this goal just felt like vindication for them. The fans were in the match, the coach, everyone was fired up. And from that moment on, it was just a game of, we were never going to come back. We were never going to win. We were never going to win, honestly. And I even think we actually deserve to lose. I know I've said it before, but that's just the truth, because all the important chances after that equaliser actually fell to Rayo. Honestly, in the 71st minute, we had another silly mistake from our left wing that led to another one-on-one that Joan Garcia saves. And it wasn't the only one. He had save upon save. He saved another one-on-one from De Frutos. That was like point blank. And he saved that as well. Which is why, honestly, for me, he was my man of the match. He was my man of the match. Now, let's not forget, in the 71st minute, I think, Rashford and Lewandowski came in for Balde and Ferran Torres. And I didn't really think they made any impact whatsoever. I think I'm not going to blame Rashford too much, because I think part of why he wasn't really involved as he should have been, or as I felt like he could have been, was because I think when he came in, the match was already a difficult match. And I didn't really think that they were involving him as much, because if you remember, there was an opportunity that Lewandowski had in the 80th minute to put Rashford on. It was a 1-2. Rashford gave him the ball, and Lewandowski was meant to play a 1-2 with him, and he just delayed for some reason. Again, it's back to that understanding. I think this is the first game both of them are really playing together. I think this is the first time they're on the pitch together, if I'm not mistaken. So I get it from one aspect, but I still think that as a professional footballer, the 1-2 was on. He just didn't trust him enough. So if that were to be Raphinha or Lamine Yamal, Lewandowski would have released that ball earlier. And then Rashford became offside. And at the end of the day, that chance just went begging. And I just felt like we were never really going to come back into this match. I think, another terrible defending in the 85th minute, and Rayo had scored again, but it was ruled offside. So they were even the ones, threatening to make it 2-1. Actually, not even Barcelona. And Garcia was called in to save upon save upon save, which is the reason why he's my man of the match for today. He was my man of the match, and I think it was an amazing display from him. So unfortunate that it didn't end up in a win, because then that would have crowned what was an amazing goalkeeping display from him. But it wasn't meant to be on the night. So that's just what happened. I just think at the end of the day, the match ended. It was 1-1. And I just think, honestly, Barcelona, I wasn't really impressed by our showing tonight. I think we need to do better. And I think a lot of things need to change. I'm actually glad that the international break is here, honestly, because I think that we do need to go away and just regroup. If you remember last season, this was something that happened last season towards December, when we lost those 4 matches in a row that allowed Real Madrid to come back on top, and even at some point we were third in the league, and we had to go on that international break. The players were refreshed, and we came back, and then it was pretty much firing on all cylinders to the end of the season. So I just hope that this would be one of those things. I'm happy that it's happening early in the season because I do feel like we needed a wake-up call. I do think like there's a lot of complacency across the pitch. I think Frankie de Jong, Pedri, Joan Garcia, Christensen, Kubasi, Raphinha, these are players that I would say are really firing at their best. As much as I love Yamal, I don't think he's at his best. I think he's really letting people get in his head. I think, he's paying attention to the off-the-pitch drama, the theatrics, all of those things. I think he needs to get his head back in the game. This is somebody that's been projected to become the best player or even do as good as Messi. And I think to be able to get that level of success that Messi and Ronaldo had, you really, really need to be focused on the football and nothing else. And I really, sometimes I feel like that maturity. He's still a young player anyway, so I don't want to be too critical of him. But you can see what happened to Vini Jr. after that Ballon d'Or season he had. He started paying attention to all of the talk outside of the pitch, and that affected his play. And right now, I don't even know, what's going to be the future for him with Real Madrid. And even Mbappe as well. I think that affected him as well at some point. So I think as a footballer, it's a very competitive sport and other people are looking to take your place and take your crown. So you need to always be focused. You need to give it 100% in terms of commitment, dedication, hard work, everything. And don't pay attention to critics. Don't pay attention to people on the media. Just none of that. Just focus on the game. And I think that's what we need to do. And a lot of players, a couple of players in that team need to get their head back in the game. All of these laughing and joking before the match, all of this, club, the amigos, I don't want that to happen this time. They really need to get that act together and then get back in the game. So I hope that this international break will be a much needed reset for the team. And also, I hope that Fermin Lopez stays. And I hope that all of the issues that we're having right now, we're able to sort all of those out. And, just sort of get our head back in the game. Because now we're going to be third behind Real Madrid and Athletic. And I just think, this is not the way we wanted to start the season. But, better that it's happening now than towards the business end of the season. So that's just, my little breakdown. I know I sounded a bit pissed, so forgive me if that was a bit intense. I'm hoping that, the next match against Valencia will, come out with a better outcome and then we'll come back here and maybe celebrate a win. But yeah, that's just what it is. I'm going to be following up Gavi's injury situation and other things that are happening in Barcelona. So if there's any other information that I need to bring to you, if any of the updates, I'll bring that here and I'll do more videos. But in the meantime, I'll see you soon, guys. Visca or Barça.